Welcome to the ACS Podcast family.
We're your hosts, Angie and Charlene.
Where every week you can find new material centered around your life.
Thanks for joining us on our journey. Welcome back and welcome to our week 2 in Mindset. We are on episode 11 and today we're going to talk to you about habits and how to create good habits and break bad habits. I have a lot of bad habits.
I think a lot of us have a lot of habits. I don't necessarily know that they're bad or good, but they are habits and they may or may not be taking us to where we want to go, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what a habit is real quick so that we're all on the same page and working from the same definition, because otherwise we can all have multiple perceptions of what that is. A habit is an action or behavior that is done on autopilot. It's something that we don't even have to think about. We do this all day long, every day. I think Charlene and I were looking and several sources said that a majority of our day is done on autopilot or is habitual. Anywhere from 40 to 90% depending on where you're looking. However, we found Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert. Matthew Killingsworth is a Harvard psychologist and Daniel Gilbert is the author of the book Stumbling on Happiness, found that 47% of our day is done habitually, is done on autopilot. And you can find this article on success.com is where we found it and kind of what we're talking through. But that's a huge portion of our day. So let's think about what we do every day that we do on autopilot.
Driving the car.
Absolutely. I mean, taking the same route to work.
Yes. You just get there and you're like, wait a minute, I'm here. Was today's traffic bad? How did it go? What time is it? Am I on time?
Yes, that's so true. You do that. Or even everything that you do in the mornings. You get up and do you do the same things in the same order in the morning? I know when I get up, I go use the bathroom and then I brush my teeth and then I take a shower and then I get dressed. You know, I meditate first before I get out of bed and, before I really get up, but I'll do my meditation first thing. But I follow the same process every day. I follow the same steps in the same order. And if you forget something, it feels really uncomfortable because it's habitual and you know that you have to do those things. And that might include your morning cup of coffee.
That was actually a really hard habit for me to break. So let's talk about coffee and habits. I mean, how many of us drink coffee every morning? And that's because it's a habit. Do you even really like coffee? I found myself drinking coffee because I liked the smell of it. I didn't really like the taste of it. So then I was more creamer and more sugar and more syrups and more this and and then it was really not coffee. It was really cream, sugar, and syrup and no coffee. And then I made a cup of tea and I was like, wait a minute, I actually like the way this tastes without cream, sugar, and syrups. So I realized that it was just a habit. I would get up and I would mindfully do all of those things, start my day, go to the bathroom, take a shower. Even before I took a shower, though, I would go downstairs and make coffee and then bring my coffee back upstairs to sip on it before I got in the shower. And that's what I did. I sipped on it all day.
We do that not because you need the caffeine. Mm-mm. You could just as easily drink a glass of water and let that jumpstart your system as you could with that coffee. And as a matter of fact, that water is going to be a healthier start to your day than that coffee is. But we're so programmed and ingrained and we think that we can't survive without our coffee because it's so habitual. I don't drink coffee, but I understand a large majority of the population does. It's actually one of the first things I tell people that come through my house is I don't have a coffee maker. So if you drink coffee, I'm really sorry about that, but I can't help you out in the mornings.
We still have our coffee maker, but nobody uses it anymore. They don't. We have a Keurig and nobody uses it. It just sits on the counter and our tea kettle is used all the time. So I bought a French press so that you could do one of those and then just have it in your cabinet. And if somebody really wants coffee, you can make it. I just like the smell of it.
I do enjoy the smell of coffee. I will agree with you there, but that is not an excuse for me to need to drink it. I have enough habits that I don't need to add another one to the list that I would want to break at some point.
That's true.
When we're talking about habits, there is a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. Those are the 4 stages of a habit. And in order to develop a habit, you have to have all 4 stages.
So like your cue, if we stayed on the coffee, would be you woke up. You need to smell and taste coffee, right? Like you opened your eyes. Cue the day. You need coffee to survive.
I need to mainline caffeine. I need to whatever that would be. Cue the day. You're right. That could be.
And you tell yourself that. So it's, again, going back to the story you tell yourself, right? Then you start craving the caffeine. You start craving the smell. You start craving the taste of it. And then your response, go to the coffee pot. Walk to the coffee pot and make your coffee. And then your reward is the drink.
Right. And you get that and it's satisfying and you get the caffeine and you get the rush and you, whatever the reward is for you. However, sometimes we can even go further back than that. Where did your coffee habit start? Because you didn't just wake up one day and decide that you're going to make coffee in your own home and have to have coffee in the morning. But it's one of those things where maybe one day you're driving to the office and you're tired, so you run through drive-thru and you get coffee. Or maybe it's that it's something that has been done in your home and so you've grown up with the smell of coffee. So maybe the cue is actually, or maybe the craving is actually the smell of coffee, like in your case, not even the taste of it, because you grew up with the smell and it's just not morning without it. So that craving is the smell. So the cue is you wake up and the craving is the smell, so you go do it. And then the reward is you get the smell, but then you have to drink the coffee too.
That's exactly what it is when you say that. I just visited my grandfather and he was like, do you want a cup of coffee? I was like, ew, no, why would I want coffee? Not thinking about it. But growing up, that's what my mother grew up in. So then she had coffee. So there's just always been that coffee smell first thing in the morning. I just need to buy them a coffee candle. I'll change everybody's habits.
Change everybody's life. But that can be applied to any habit that we have in our life, everything that's going on autopilot. And we might not even necessarily recognize what the reward is. And so for us to recognize that or understand that, we have to sit down and realize where we're on autopilot. We have to notice what we're noticing and pay attention to that.
Well, it's even, I mean, you don't smoke and I don't smoke, but thinking about the cue, craving, response, reward with somebody else in my life. I'm just going to talk about you, Mom. Sorry if you're listening. But when we were little, I mean, it was the early 80s and you could still, people still smoked in their house. I mean, that's just what you did. They didn't really know how bad it was for you. And my mom would always have a cigarette with food. Always. Like she ate her dinner with a cigarette. And that growing up was just her automatic response. And now, even though she does not smoke in the house and she's still working on quitting, every time she eats, so if we go out to eat, she's got to go outside and have a cigarette. Like she associates food is her cue to smoke a cigarette.
Yes, and that's not uncommon. But that's actually really interesting. I kind of want to move into something that talks about the 3 layers of behavior change and 3 layers of developing a habit. Because what you're talking about is an identity-based habit. And so this all comes out of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. So you can go pick up a copy. Lots of great information in there. But what I want to talk about is that identity-based habit. So you say your mom is trying to quit. So think about this. If you have a smoker, 2 smokers, one quit smoking a week ago and the other quit smoking a week ago. So they're both in the same place. And you go up and ask them if they smoke. One of them will say, I'm a non-smoker. No, I don't smoke. And the other will say, I'm trying to quit. Which one do you think is going to be more successful?
The non-smoker.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is because they are identifying with the person as a person that does not smoke, whereas the other one is identifying with the struggle of trying to accomplish something. An identity-based habit means that we are embodying the identity of that person or that habit that we want to have, or a person that has the habit that we want to have for ourselves.
Okay, not to keep talking about my parents, but this is, you just talked about them exactly. So both my parents smoked, and my dad was going to have a heart transplant, and he had to quit smoking in order to qualify for the heart transplant. So he literally, him and my mom went to the doctor, and he was like, this is my last cigarette. I am no longer a smoker. And he quit. So it was possible. And he smoked his whole life. He did the same things that my mother did. And my mom was like, okay, well, I'm going to quit too. But she never did because she didn't change who she was. He knew that he had to change who he was in order to keep living life. She was like, I'm going to do it later. Now I'll do it in the garage so you don't have to have it in the house. That's kind of how it went down.
And that's not uncommon. We are often pushed by pain until we are pulled by a vision. Mm-hmm. And in your dad's situation, he had to change his identity in order to live. But a lot of times we get stuck in this uncomfortably comfortable situation where we just go on living and doing what we do because we know it, because it's comfortable, because there's not fear of the unknown. So even if it's unhealthy, we're not touching on those emotions. We're not changing our identity. We're not identifying with the person that we want to be. So to get an identity-based habit, you have to spend a lot of time embodying the traits of the person that you want to be. And that is true for our habits because we are the sum total of our habits. Mm-hmm. We are the sum total of our actions, of our words, and of our habits. So let's talk about how you can kind of shift some of that. There are some ways that you can start to develop some habits or to help influence change. And one of those things, again, going back to Atomic Habits and James Clear, talks about the 3 layers of behavior change, talks about the outcome-based habits, the process-based habits, and the identity-based habits. And Charlene, I think you have a really good example of process changes that have helped you change some habits and helped you change some of your identity.
When I'm talking about processes, I always think about work processes, right? And workflow, and how do you get your work done in the most effective, efficient manner to where you can not spend hours upon hours working on things. So as a photographer, you learn how to process your images and to do things. And I think we talked about this. The first thing was changing your environment. So setting up a designated workspace so that you know when you get to that space, you're going to work. You're not going to be doing all of the distractions and the things around you that need to be done. And then creating a workflow. So creating a habit of, okay, now I have my memory card. What do I do with my memory card? Put my memory card in the computer. Now what programs do I open? And teaching your computer to open up those programs when the memory card goes in. Like creating processes and things that make it go faster and work for you. So then you're done and you're like, wait a minute, I just did that. Instead of squirrel, sparkle, here we go. And then 6 hours later, you didn't complete any of your work because you were so distracted by everything instead of making good habits and good choices and a good flow to kind of work you through.
The key takeaway to that is make it easy. Mm-hmm. Put the right tools in place so that you make it easy. If you want to learn to run a marathon, you don't get up and say, okay, I'm going to go run 10 miles today and I'm going to run 20 miles tomorrow and I'm going to run 26 miles the next day to run a marathon. But you put your running shoes on and you might walk for 3 minutes and you might run for 30 seconds and walk for 3 minutes and run for 30 seconds. And you might do that for a little while. Or even if you're further away from the goal than that, you might just lay your running clothes out or your workout clothes out and your shoes out the night before, and you might wake up the next day and put your clothes on and not go work out. You might just get into the habit of putting your clothes on. And then once you have the habit of getting up and putting your workout clothes on, you might decide to go for a walk around the block. You might decide after you get used to going for a walk around the block, you might decide that you're going to jog around the block and then walk around the block. And you build on that, those small steps. And that's ways that you can create good habits is by making them easy.
I am so at the wear leggings stage in that. Like, I get dressed to go work out, but I'm not really working out yet. But I know that I'm on my way because I didn't even own shoes or workout clothes until this last year. Baby steps. That's what I'm telling myself.
That's right. Exactly. Somebody that I know, we were talking about goals, New Year's resolutions, and somebody asked who was in a meeting I was in, somebody asked who was still on track. And one of the gals in there raised her hand, and she was talking about her goal. And her goal was to get up an hour earlier. And her path to do that was to make it easy, was to get up 5 minutes earlier each month. Rather than trying to suddenly get up 60 minutes earlier than you normally would so that you could have this morning power hour, and implement this morning routine. It's, I'm just going to get up 5 minutes earlier. And you do that for a whole month. And how often do you notice 5 minutes, right? I get up 5 minutes before my alarm all the time. And you don't notice that. So then after you're used to that, you set your alarm 5 minutes back, and it becomes habitual and it becomes easy. And it's those baby steps that you can take.
I love that idea. That is a great idea.
It is a great idea. Going back to some other examples, because I know this can be hard to think about, well, what's a baby step? Especially when you're thinking, well, I want to eat healthy. How do I do a baby step to that? So instead of taking anything away, why don't you make it a point to add in 5 fruits and vegetables? Or I have somebody who wants to do meal planning and wants to cook more at home. And their baby step was to put the cookbook on a stand on the counter instead of away on the bookshelf where they have to go dig it out. Make it obvious. Put it right in front of your face and make it easy.
I have something great. If you are doing meal prepping, if you go on Amazon, there are these bag stands that you can like drop your food and stuff in when you say that. Like that was my make it easy part. It holds the plastic baggie that you put your food in, so you can line them up on the counter and just drop your food in as you're going along. It was a baby step. They live in my cabinet now. Let's be real. But my cookbook is on my counter. The cookbook one wasn't me. However, sometimes baby steps go backwards, and that's okay as long as you start getting them back out. You keep moving forward in another way.
And maybe that baby step wasn't the right baby step because it wasn't easy and it wasn't convenient. And sometimes we just need some accountability. So how do you get that?
You get an accountability partner. I have an accountability partner that we've been slacking just a little bit lately, but we met up the other day and we realized how much we were slacking at each other. So ours is for soda. I am a soda junkie. It's ridiculous. I try to make it hard. I try to leave it, at the store, not in my house, but the gas station now is convenient. I can just go there really quick. But have an accountability partner to where when I wanted to go to the gas station, my habit was to text her, I'm going to the gas station. Why are you going to the gas station? Do you need to get gas? Would be asked. No, I don't need to get gas. And then if I had to fail, she was right there. She understood. But then when I failed that moment, I didn't fail the rest of the day because she's like, okay, now you have your soda. Now move on. Start over again. And I'm like, oh, I can start over again today. I don't have to wait till tomorrow to start over again because my accountability partner pointed that out to me. It wasn't, I didn't have to ruin my whole day. I didn't have to keep, well, I already had 1 soda, so let me have 6 sodas because I already ruined today. I can have 1 soda and start over again. So she helped me realize that.
When we're talking about a health journey, specifically, we get caught up in well, I have to start on Monday. Well, I have to start tomorrow. Well, I have to start next week. Well, I messed up. I had a piece of cake today because it was my daughter's birthday. And we think that ruins our whole day and it gives us permission to go off track the whole day. That doesn't necessarily mean that, right? We are what we do all the time, not what we do once in a while. So embody that. And so going back to what is an identity-based habit based on becoming a healthy person. And ask yourself, what would a healthy person do? Well, a healthy person might eat a piece of cake for somebody's birthday, but a healthy person also wouldn't then go off the rails and continue to binge eat all day long. So what would a healthy person do? Well, a healthy person might eat that piece of cake, and then for dinner, they might eat a salad, or they might eat vegetables, or they might eat vegetarian, or they might eat something that was, boiled versus
fried.
There's a lot of options, and it doesn't mean that you have to go off the rails for the whole day.
And you could do a baby step. Let's just say, again, cake. What goes with cake? Ice cream. Maybe you skip the ice cream and you just eat the cake. That's a baby step. Then maybe next time you don't eat the frosting. You just eat the actual cake part. Or vice versa. Depending on which one is your vice. And you just kind of break it down, and then maybe next time you only eat a little piece of cake.
There's lots of ways to do that. One of the ways that I've implemented some habits too, which kind of goes with processes, kind of goes with outcome, kind of goes with identity. Again, going back to the atomic habits models and what James Clear talked about and those micro habits, but habit stacking. So I sat down and wrote out all of my habits. I know what I do each and every day. I also know where I can put a new habit in. And my habit is every day before I take a shower, I'm going to do a workout routine. And I have a workout routine that I do. It's very short. It takes me just a couple of minutes, but it's something to help get my blood flowing for the day and helps get some physical movement in. That way, if I don't get anything else in, at least I've gotten that little portion in for the day, because being honest, I am not a jump out of bed in the morning and go exercise person. It's not who I am. It's not the way that I've ever been. I've had some very successful times in the past when I have worked out consistently, when I have worked out well, when it has become habitual for me. And mornings have never been it. But I also recognize that now my life looks different than it did back then. And I want to make sure that I'm getting something in. So I have a short 10-minute routine that I do every day before I get in the shower. And that way, if I don't get another workout in, I'm at least getting that portion in.
That's genius too. That's 2 takeaways I'm getting from us recording today.
I love that. I got a lot of takeaways too as we were talking about what the percentages are and what that looks like when we were going through all of that. And when we were talking about how to create those good habits and some of that other stuff, that's also takeaways that I can do. Like, how else can I do this? How can I change my workstation? How can I change my processes? What can I do? So making sure that we're taking takeaways away from this too. I love that it is reciprocal and helps us.
Yeah, absolutely. When reading that article, the 10 signs you're living on autopilot on success.com, that we keep referencing those 2 Harvard psychologists from. So the first thing was that they said was you dread your day ahead. And I know that there was a time in my life where I woke up and I was like, oh, I do not want to go to work. I do not want to do this. And it's not that I didn't enjoy my job. I loved my job. But it was very predictable. I knew exactly where I was going. I didn't pay attention. I would just show up at work. I don't know how I got there. I am surprised that I did not run somebody over, because I really don't remember driving to work, because it was just going to the same place again and again and again. And I did different things during the day. I never had the same day twice, but it was still starting my day by going to the same place and doing all of those things and making the coffee when I got there and it was just habit. And I dreaded each second of those exact habits. It wasn't until making my daily routine unpredictable that I really started to enjoy life. Is that weird?
I don't think so. And I think having habits gives us more freedom rather than less freedom, as long as we know what those habits are and we've developed them. Again, knowing on Tuesday that we're going to plan for Friday night makes it easy and gives us more freedom to do what we need to on Friday night. Gives us more headspace for that. So having those habits is a good thing, but living on autopilot is not.
Right. The other thing that really kicked me with reading that article was you have a difficult time remembering, where I would forget what I ate for dinner last night. Did I eat breakfast? I'm confused. When was the last time I went to the bathroom? Because I literally lived on autopilot. I just do not remember any of those things. It was just autopilot. I mean, I don't even have another word for it. I forget everything. I was constantly, and it wasn't like I was really forgetting. I meal prepped. I did all of those things, but it was just the routine of repeating it over and over and over again.
Muscle memory.
That's it. Yes.
They say it takes about 1,000 repetitions for something to become muscle memory. And habits, depending on the size of the habit, can take up to a year to form. I think the statistics might say something a little bit longer than that. And some statistics say as short as 21 days. I recognize that, but it really depends on the complexity of the habit that you're trying to develop. So don't give up on yourself if you fail at that. Developing habits is a good thing when they are taking you closer to the identity that you want. But if they're not taking you towards that and you're not having that passion-inspired filled life and it's not taking you to where you want to go, that's when you get in that autopilot, autopilot mode.
Right. And I know there's so many studies on this that say that you're the happiest when your thoughts and your actions are aligned. So you can't just be sitting there going through the motions on autopilot going, there's got to be something better out there for me. If you think there's something better out there, then make a step to do it. If you want to be a hip hop dancer, find a hip hop dance class. Like if you want to, I don't know, be a chef, start meal prepping for your days. Create time for yourself to do the things that you want to change so that you don't feel like you're on autopilot all the time wishing you lived in a different life.
Yes, there's that. And one easy way to start that is to think the question, what would I love? As you're standing over the sink doing the dishes, as you're standing in front of the dryer folding the clothes, you would still be doing those things if you had the life that you loved. But what would you love? As you're sitting there frustrated or as you're on autopilot, just become aware. Think about, okay, I'm doing the dishes right now. And in my life that I would love, this is what my life would look like. And I would love doing the dishes. I'd be grateful for doing these dirty dishes because it means that I have my family surrounding me. I have friends.
Or you made your first gourmet meal.
Right. So what would I love is you're standing there doing those mundane tasks and bring yourself back to them.
Exactly. Something else that the article said that we talk about a lot was you can't seem to put your phone down. And I feel like I have to literally put my phone on another floor in my house. Otherwise, a notification goes off or something happens, even if I have it on silent, where I feel like I have to check, did I miss something? Even if it's something so stupid as like, did my lives get reinstated or whatever you would call it on a game? I have an addiction to a game that is on my phone that is so embarrassing and I can't believe I'm going to even talk about it. But I feel like I have to check it every day because when I check it every day, I get a bonus for checking in each day. And I need that bonus. And if I lose that streak, then I have to go back to these little minuscule bonuses. And who doesn't want to do that? And so that sets off the reward center in my brain. And I'm like, I have to get these rewards. I have to do this. And I don't have to do it at all. The logical side of my brain says, do not. And my phone says, oh, hello, I'm right here.
Social media, the same thing. And I'm not terrible with social media. I'm not on social media a lot, but think about how often do you catch yourself scrolling through Facebook? Oh, I've got 30 seconds sitting in a restaurant while Damon gets up and goes to the bathroom. Let me go see what's happening on Facebook. Oh, look at this meme. He's going to come back. Let me share this meme with him. And it's not something that I need to do. Something that I haven't made a habit of yet, but I'm getting better at is if we're going to go into a public place, I will leave my phone in the car. The other day, I went out and went shopping and left my phone at home. And I thought I was going to one store, and we ended up going to 3 stores, and I didn't have my phone. And I made it through without withdrawals. I will say that. But it was actually a great experience because I was able to be present in the experience that I was having so that the person that I was shopping with, if they weren't done shopping, I could help them shop instead of checking my phone, instead of scrolling on Facebook, instead of seeing what was going on Instagram. That is a great sign of the fact that you're living your life on autopilot because that phone is always in front of our face. And putting it down is something that many of us struggle with.
It does. Even talk about it in parenting and 2 different sides of it. Number 1, are you the parent that is taking pictures of every single thing that your kid is doing so that your kid doesn't even really see your face? They're seeing your camera all the time. You know, it just the reward center that goes off in a child's head and just the chemical reaction of when your voice changes and you're looking at them and you're smiling at them and you're proud of them. Or are they seeing, oh, there's the camera. And then the camera becomes the reward, not your face.
Very true.
So that's like you're creating habits and reward centers in your kids just by having your phone out too. Or are you so busy on your phone with work you can't put it down because your email's on it and everything is that you're uh-huh-ing your kid. I do it. I know that I do it. And then I catch myself doing it. It's like I have this like internal conversation where, you know, Tom and Jerry, the angel and the devil on the kitty cat's shoulders. And it's like, put your phone down, but just get this done. Because if you get this done, you could have all day tomorrow with them. And then it's like, no, have today with them. Have right now, have this moment. And I literally have to put my phone down or put my phone on another floor so that I am paying attention and not trying to take pictures and not trying to share. I mean, we live in another state from our family, so their connection with my kids is social media. Like, am I showing them enough? Am I doing enough so that they still have a connection with them? It's just this never-ending struggle for me anyway.
And it shows up in our other relationships too. And I'm sure that it shows up in the relationship with you and Jason because he's not around all the time because he travels for work. Mm-hmm. But even when we're starting to date or when we're getting to know somebody, how unattractive is it when you're sitting at the table with your date, with your husband, with your wife, with your significant other, with the new person that you're dating, if you're single, with your friends, whoever, and you're sitting at the table and your phone's out on the table and you pick up your phone every 5 seconds to check it. And you're paying more attention to your phone than the people that you're with. What kind of message is that sending? So having the phone is a habit that we could definitely stand to do some work on. So if you take nothing else away from this, just thinking about how that habit means that you're probably not as inspired as you could be in your life, or probably not as fulfilled as you could be in your life, and taking some steps to really be present and look for ways where you can be more involved, where you can be more present, where you can find more satisfaction in your current life.
There was an exercise that came up a few years ago and I loved it. And I loved seeing people do it when you go out to restaurants is you put your phone down and you pile them on top of each other. So if there's 4 of you, they're all upside down and on the table, but on top of each other specifically, because if it's on vibrate, you can't tell whose it is by the position on the table because we're all clever like that, right? And the first person to grab for their phone is the person who has to pay the bill at dinner.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and it was so nice. I mean, it was very short-lived, of course, because, as all of our trends are. But it was great to see people put their phone down and see the stack of phones at a restaurant. And they were doing it because they saw it on social media. But then to be present for that dinner. But also taking it into parenting with your phones, too. I mean, kids have phones. So we freak out if we leave our phone at home, like you said, because how am I going to get a hold of my kid? But remember, for the last few hundred years, we did not have cell phones, and we did not have cell phones attached to our wrists for our watches. We did not have our kids constantly attached to us. So that adds another level of helicopter parenting and a habit to break that your kid's going to be okay if they can't get a hold of you, as long as they've got trusted resources. Make sure that you have trusted resources. They know to go to a neighbor to call 911 if a fire happens, those types of things. But you don't always have to be 100% connected and available. Like we lived, right? I mean, we lived with kitchen phones attached to the walls. And there was no other way to get a hold of your parents. What if they weren't home? What if they went to get the mail? Oh my gosh, that the phone didn't ring. We're all here.
We all lived.
Yep.
So today we talked a lot about habit, those identity-based habits, those process-based habits, outcome-based habits. Today we talked about the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, what we can do to implement more good habits, talked about some habit stacking, talked about adding more and just doing those little things. We talked about the study on success.com that was done and what people have found. So take a look at those resources if you're interested in learning more. Otherwise, today, that's all we've got for you. So reach out to us if you have any questions or comments, or if there's anything that you'd like to hear us talk more about. Don't forget to click the link below to like and subscribe to our video and follow us on social media. And we'll talk to you next week. And the journey's not over. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with the latest content and episodes.
We love each and every one of you in our tribe, and we want to celebrate your successes alongside you. Share them with us at ACS Podcast on Facebook.